Good afternoon, folks. We are live and back for the first time in well over a week. We'll get everything switched over and loaded up, and we will see how productive we are in today's drawing stream.
Money on my mother, mine. Cop 5 haircuts at the same time. White gold pants, jet ski made of wine. Foie gras bust of Albert Einstein, get money.
Hey, Red Dragon with the resub for a whopping 19 months. Thanks for the resub, dude. Much appreciated. Also, welcome. Good to see you. It's been a hot minute. As we kick off the stream, quick disclaimer, I'm getting over a cold, so I'm going to try and see if I can get to my mute button fast enough if I got a cough. But if my voice sounds a little bit funny, that's why. I'm also dealing with some allergies as things get warmer where I live. So it might sound a little bit weird today, but I'm almost over this thing. Red Dragon says, yep, very long, hot minute. Oh, well over a year, coming up on almost 2 years, which, in the content creator space, that's a long time. So again, appreciate the support, and appreciate you helping keep things sane on the mod side as well. Red Dragon says, not drawing weapons for Monster Hunter Wilds. Yeah, I know we were talking about that on Discord the other day. I don't know if I'm going to enter the contest. I want to say I designed weapon ideas for World way back when that came out. But didn't really feel like coming up with any designs for Wilds. Not for any reason because of the game, but I am curious to see what kind of designs they pick for both the pendants and the weapon after that's done. I do excuse me, want to do a weapon designing stream at some point here on the drawing side, but it won't be for something like that. It'll be for weapon designs in universe for the fiction lore stuff that we've been working on up till now. If I remember from the World days, it was the Rocket Greatsword. I think that's the one that got chosen in World. I can't remember if they did a fan designed weapon for Rise Sunbreak. It was a while ago. It'd be cool if they pick a fan made design for each of the 14 weapons, but I don't know if the designers and developers want to create 14 unique assets in addition to the pendant. So we'll have to see. I'll be keeping an eye on the results of that contest. But you have to let me know if you decide to enter anything, Red Dragon, since I know you do design work too. Alright. So we should have music going in the background. I'm running through my playlist for BGM stuff today. We're going to pick up where we left off on the right layer for once. And actually, I know what I was going to do. Give me a quick sec. I'm going to go pull out my binder of old sketch designs. You won't be able to see them on stream, but I'll be able to describe what I'm looking at. And we're going to use that as some concept ideas to sketch here. Hey, I see C-Chano's here saying I eat at the beans. What's up, C-Chano? Good to see ya. Welcome to the drawing stream where sometimes drawings happen at a reasonable rate of like 3 or 4 concepts per stream. I hope you, if you're eating beans, I hope your beans are delicious. See, Channel says I have 480 milligrams of caffeine in my veins right now. Ooh, buddy. I'm pretty sure that would put me in the hospital. As a person with virtually no caffeine tolerance, because I don't drink caffeine anymore, even like a small Red Bull will keep me awake and fairly well powered for a while. I may have mentioned this a long time ago, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when I was still drinking tea in the morning at work, one of my coworkers had me try a Bang Energy after drinking nothing but, green teas, etc. And Bang Energy was like 300 milligrams. I did not sleep for like a day and a half. And I was drinking it at like 6 in the morning. My tolerance is so low that it stayed in my system for that long, and I was not a happy camper. And it wasn't even a beneficial like caffeine rush. I was so over caffeinated that I couldn't like focus on anything all day. It was awful. C Channel says I can smell colors and taste sounds. Yeah, I think I saw Into the Future briefly. So I definitely am going to avoid that in the future. All right, let me go grab my binder. It's under my desk. And I'm going to go find a concept sketch that's going to match the one we're doing here on the left. Need a male model, and we're going to go for armor. So you might hear some shuffling. Give me a sec. All right. These are probably 7 or 8 years old at this point. We can use one of the ideas here as a base to translate an old design into something we can use here as a more modern concept. Z Channel says, if you know what Exploding Kittens card game is, seeing in the future puts a very disturbing image in my head. I have not played Exploding Kittens, but I've seen it. In fact, I think I was gifted a set of cards, or it might have been a puzzle from that particular group. But I have heard of it, yes. Our Dragon says, thinking about a longsword design with the guard as Rathalos' head with the blade coming out of the mouth. Oh, that would be cool. That would be a fire element longsword then. I wonder if they would consider a design based off of like an existing element, since there's already a Rathalos longsword. It doesn't look like that, but I wonder if they would consider kind of like a revamped or updated design versus something completely unique. You could always design the dragon to be something different, but still keeping that same idea. Fire for Rathalos and Rathian would be poison. Interesting idea. You should definitely sketch it out. Okay, it's gonna be a little bit tricky since I don't have a way to put this paper up where I can see it. I'm gonna have to kind of look over at my desk here. Okay, we want a sort of robe-like outfit, but we're going to add some armor to it for protection. This is like combat armor on this one we're doing here on the left. C-Channel says, just realized it's the 5th already and I've forgotten to hang my Pride flag up. It is Pride Month. Happy Pride Month to all the folks out there. I'm still trying to come to terms with the fact that we're entering into summer. This year is already kind of flying by. And I think it's only going to accelerate as things go. Okay, this one has an overlapping design, but few chances don't remind me I had to apply for student loans. Ah, yes. The cement block around your ankles, that is student loans. Well, hopefully your schooling is going well. I don't know if we've ever talked about what you're studying, C-Channel, but hopefully your studies are going well. C-Channel says cosplay. I study cosplay. As in the like design philosophy or the actual practice of like making and doing cosplay? Is that like an art program? I know nothing about like your studies. I don't think we've ever talked about it, so I'm just kind of curious. Is that like an art program? Creating and wearing cosplay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Okay, let me see. I need to pay attention here. We're going to change the way this coat looks a little. This one's actually a short coat. I see. So it's its own thing. Sounds like an interesting field of study. C-Shanna says it's almost 2 a.m. I need sleep. I'm going to lurk. All right, no problem. Thanks for popping in to say what's up to the chat. Again, hope your student loans and your study stuff goes well. In the meantime, get some rest, and I will catch you later. Talking about cosplay stuff makes me wish I had more time to get back into designing wearable pieces for, I don't know if it's really cosplay because it's not based on like established lore or characters from like a show, but I used to do a lot more design work with wearable things, and it's not content you've ever seen before here on anything I do, but it's also because I haven't done it in a while. I used to make sculptures and masks and weapons and stuff. I never got to take them anywhere, though. I just make them because I had ideas. But I have not had as much time to do that lately. Okay, these bits here that I'm putting on the coat are meant to be like armored pieces that sort of wrap around, and in my mind they're kind of adhered to the fabric itself. They're not hanging or sort of sitting on the garment. They're actually attached or secured somehow to the fabric itself so that it functions like an armor piece. And if we were go X-ray mode here, this would wrap around the back and kind of cover the back here, so it's not just protecting the front and sides. Okay, what we have here going further down, we do have pants, kind of loose-fitting pants, but they'll be kind of tucked into higher boots, so not loose-hanging pants. Also on the topic of cosplay and stuff like that, I think I definitely talked about this a few times on stream, but I really wish I had a background in working with fabrics. I think if I chose my hobbies differently and were to do it all over again with more time, I would probably go into some sort of, maybe not a trade, but I would get some sort of training for being able to work with fabrics, because I really would like to design my own clothes. That's probably not a surprise considering we do a lot of outfit designs and stuff here as part of these drawing streams. But from casual wear to kind of more experimental wear would be something that I'd be interested in doing design work for. I don't know if I'd model it myself because I don't really have the figure for a model. Her Dragon says it could still. I don't need any more hobbies at this point. If I take up any more hobbies, then all the content I work on now is going to suffer. I just need to partner with a cosplayer that knows how to work with designs. Work with materials, rather. Okay, we want to make sure and do a bit of reinforcement on the limbs as well. We talked a bit in one of the previous streams for this particular race. This is the kind of psychic race, the one that has a lot of psionic, telepathic, telekinetic, etc. powers. So they're not as physically strongly built, and they're smaller in general. And the kind of concept that I had for designing the armor and whatnot is, instead of some of the other ones where, you can look back at this one over here, where we've got kind of like a heavier futuristic plate mail style of armor, this particular race doesn't rely on that because they defend using like psychic energy and don't really use a lot of melee weapons, more kind of futuristic like caster type weapons and the like. So you're not going to see full body armor for the most part. You'll see kind of lighter protective gear, but nothing that's going to be like a full suit of armor. But we do want to go with kind of long sleeves. The coats or robe-like garments do usually go down to the hands, and for quote-unquote a combat scenario, you want to have at least the coverage for the fabric and whatever else is going to be protecting the extremities. And this design I'm looking at here, okay, we've got the cuffs similar to this one. but we also have this kind of wrapping around armor bit here. Think about whether or not I want to make that symmetrical. I think it would make sense to have both arms be somewhat protected. When we flip it, we'll make sure that stays on the other arm. As I was getting set up for the stream today, I had an idea that kind of popped into my head that depending on what we do here, maybe we can test it out, or maybe we'll do it in a future drawing stream. But the idea that I had was to use this idea of kind of symmetrical design to keep details consistent, but do it with faces. And that would be primarily to make sure things like the eyes and actual facial features are symmetrical, so I'm not doing like a kind of skewed, abstract looking face that has the details like slanted to one side, but we keep it symmetrical with a full frontal view like this for just the head, like maybe just right here. And then using that as a base template, we experiment different like eye styles, maybe some expressions, and specifically hair. Because I know I've done front-facing sketches before, but I don't really bother using the symmetry plane because it's just a sketch. But that might be a way to work off of like a consistent model too. So that's what I might do next time we do character details instead of just outfits. Because I don't think I've done that before. Okay, what we've got here, let's add a little bit of this kind of contour pattern to the top of the shoulders. It goes across. This would be a different color if we were rendering this out fully colored. Okay. The rest of the details are going to be when we flip this and make it symmetrical. So let's do that, and then we'll sort of complete the rest of the design, since I want to have the crossing over sections be not symmetrical, and it's probably the biggest one. We could add some more details to the coat, maybe some decorative characters or whatnot. So what we'll do is we're going to call this 8B. We will duplicate you and flip over the axis. Using this particular method of just flipping a design over a symmetry plane, we can also do things like adjust the overall model's build just by making it wider or more narrow. But we'll keep it consistent for now, since the point of this exercise isn't to really mess around with physiology so much. It's to mess around with outfit details, stuff like that. Okay, now we can hide the primary. This is like a kind of heavier undershirt beneath the coat. But here's what I'm talking about when I say the coat or the top of the robe has overlapping layers. I imagine it would be secured maybe over here with clasps or something that's going to keep it from like flapping open. And we talked about having some like runic characters, which you can also take a look at what that looks like on my old sketch here. That's helpful. Really should date my drawings, or I should have back in the day when I was doing this on paper. I want to say this again, probably more than. I'm going to go out on a limb and say these old paper sketches are more than 10 years old. You could tell based on the way a lot of the faces look and the proportions specifically, they're a lot older. Let me give you folks an example of what I'm talking about. We have a pretty basic physical model primary for both the male and female models we're doing here. And so it's consistent here. When I did these sketches, it's basically sets of 3 in a similar pose and 3 different models with different designs, but the legs are way too long. The legs are like longer than the entirety of the body, which is a problem I had earlier on when I was learning how to draw in this style. That's usually my marker that I'm looking at an older piece. If the legs are too long, or 2, if the face looks a little bit squished, which is not as bad on these. Heads look kind of small, but definitely the limb proportion is kind of wonky. All right. So let's take stock of this particular design and compare it to the first one, which we did last session. I definitely think this one has a bit more of a sense of protective armor. This neck piece I put around the neck leading down the shoulders might need a little bit of cleanup so it doesn't look like a collar. But this would be maybe functioning kind of like a collar, something to protect the throat neck area from potential harm, and the rest of the outfit's meant to kind of protect the body. But I think that will do for these. Let's move them over here, and I'll slide these up to the top, give myself some room. Then I'm going to have to take a look at the previous set, see where we left off. I think what we said was there's 5 more sets after the first one. Let's find out. This is what we did in the first series of sessions across, well, maybe 3 or 4 streams. It takes me forever to finish something. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 sets, 1 male, 1 female. And we need 5 more, 11 sets in total. And thinking about it, this is probably the most complete of a set of concepts for this particular project I've ever come close to doing. That's why I'm kind of determined to finish out the set. We'll see if we manage to do it today on stream, but I usually start another format and move on to something else and get distracted. So I'm trying to be a little bit focused and at least finish one set of outfit designs. Okay. So let's see. Which one do I need next? I'm gonna need the water people next. Yeah, let's do that one. So hide you. Oh, I should pull up my other one that I was doing. I was using that as a reference to make sure I wasn't missing anything. This one. Okay, we did the water people in the middle. So we did armor on the male, regular clothing on the female. So we'll flip it for this one. We'll go armor. Armor for the female model. And let me go into the binder and see if I can find an old design for this particular race and do the same thing. Alright, let me put this away and dig through the archives here real quick. If I was actually a responsible content creator, I would have organized all this before the stream, but I forgot that we talked about doing this last time. Now, here we go. I think I found a good design to adapt and make some functional changes to. This one actually would probably work for casual wear more so than armor, but we can tweak the design a bit. I don't think it was originally designed to be armor. We can take some ideas from it. I only say that because this particular female model is wearing like kind of a low-cut upper body piece, which wouldn't really be functional for armor. It'd be distracting. Okay, so for this one, I gotta not do these neck pieces all the same way. This one, I'll start down here, taking the idea of something that looks low cut, but we're gonna add in more protection that goes kind of up like this. This particular detail I'm adding here, it's probably going to be lost in the sketch, but I'll include it here. Mention that this is the water race. They have gills on the sides of their neck. They breathe underwater. That's going to be hard to see when it's sketched like this. Doesn't really matter for the model, but Just take my word for it. They're in there. What I'm experimenting with here is kind of a flexible yet tough protective material that's going to be streamlined for movement in the water. This race doesn't live exclusively underwater. They're kind of more amphibious than anything else, but a lot of what they do is water-based. So everything they either wear or use functionally has to be effective underwater. So you're not going to see for combat wear really kind of billowy or like flowing type of garments that are going to get in the way if you were to be underwater. It's going to be a lot more streamlined. Kind of like a diving suit. That was the original inspiration for how I designed some of the stuff for this particular race. Like if you combine the idea of a diving suit with protective armor. Okay, taking a look at the design here. This particular part, which does sort of hang down from the waist as part of the garment, is the way I have here. Would be kind of like the same flexible fabric or material, or protective material, but it's going to have armor kind of overset on the top. Since it wouldn't make sense for that to be like an unguarded section of the body in the lower midsection / crotchal area. Also thinking about color paletting. A little bit difficult to show when we're doing sketch concepts like this, but if this was fully colored, I could show the different sections and explain the palette. But for this particular race, again, thinking aquatic themes, aquatic colors, you're going to see a lot of kind of light dark blues, light dark greens, and kind of grays and muted silvers. Nothing really neon and flashy. Okay, let's clean up some of the details here, and then I gotta think about what I want to do on the arms. This one, again, I don't think this was meant to be a functional armor design. what I'm looking at here off screen on paper actually cuts off on the arm. I was gonna fix that. This is it kind of just because these are old concepts doesn't mean they're good. I'm sure if I were to show these to some of my peers that do character design, they would mock them as much as I do. But yeah, what I have here would be something like this, which is not what I'm going to do for the final design. So like an arm bracer, but then this section is completely open from the upper arm, shoulder, upper arm, which is not really that functional for looking at armor, protective armor. So we can definitely fix that. Another thing I'm noticing looking at these old drawings, in addition to the proportions being weird, again, the legs are far too long on these old sketches, but the arms are very stick-like. I don't think I'm drawing like high definition muscle or anything, but if I were to try and duplicate what I'm seeing in these old sketches here, this model's arm would look like this. Which is distractingly bad. We're not going to do that. It's another reason why I can tell how old this is. What we're going to do instead is add kind of like a protective shoulder part here. And then we go into the protective bracer part here. Probably duplicate some of the patterning on it. I like the idea that a lot of the armor bits have kind of these fin-like things, again, for movement in the water. So we can definitely carry that detail forward. See any other things that go on this armor thing here? It's really more just a textured piece of kind of metallic material. Thinking about what to do with these darker sections. We haven't really done that on any other part of the design. I think it actually looks a little out of place to have that like that. So instead, we'll just keep it kind of like a layer. I'm going to change the way that looks too. Have these kind of texture lines, these go in the same direction. I think the idea for this particular type of outfit would be the person's wearing kind of like a protective bodysuit underneath, and all of the armor bits are worn on top, but it's meant to be kind of well fitted so that if you're in the water, you're not getting a lot of water between the armor and the bodysuit. So maybe idea it's semi-watertight, at least well fitted, so that doesn't happen, since that would impair mobility. Okay, I have not saved once since we've been doing this. So let's do that. Now for the legs. For the legs on the sketch I'm looking at here, they're not uncovered, so there's no bare skin. But it almost looks like there's a legging material that goes down. And I don't think that would necessarily be protective as much, so I'm going to change that. The real question is, can I add these kind of texture layers here without making it look like it's plating, more so just a heavy textured material that's protecting the legs. Another thing that's probably difficult to show without any sort of color. Kind of armored, higher cut boots go up maybe past the ankle, mid shin here. And these bits here are protective parts on the material around the calves. And the original does have these sort of things wrapped around the upper part of the quads too. And on the shoes, which we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about shoe design, what I'm seeing here is sort of like a little bit more heavily armored version of those water boots. Kind of like Tabis, but without the toes. You've ever seen those before? Okay. I think that is going to work for this design. I want to make a couple changes to this lower part down here when we mirror it. So let's do that, and we'll see how this one turned out. This one is 9. Okay, that looks like it's symmetrical. Now I can get rid of all the stuff underneath and clean up the stuff along that center line. Shouldn't require much. Okay, let's save for one. Don't forget. I think that'll definitely work. This is only taking elements of the sketch that I have here in my hand, the paper sketch. In fact, the upper body is very different. I kind of changed the armor, but the bits on the arms, the protective bracer is pretty similar, and the lower garment I shortened up a bit. This protective part here that covers the lower midsection on down actually went down to about here, which would be okay for kind of common wear, but not really that functional for armor. Okay. Well, we can move on to the male version, which is going to be more casual wear. Now for this one, let's do kind of like a contrast exercise rather than go into the archives again. I should have kept the stack that I had before. There was a male version of an outfit for this particular race there. I should have held on to it, but that's okay. Kind of got an idea in mind. We'll see how it turns out here. This one is going to have something that cuts off here further up the neck, but this is going to be, I don't know if this type of outfit has an official name, but it's essentially a sleeveless cutoff shirt. the idea for this just sort of popped in my mind as we're finishing up the other design. That's why I'm not really talking my way through it as much. But what we have here, again, casual wear, a sort of sleeveless form-fitting shirt, which we'll think of some designs to put on here. On the waist, we have kind of like this midsection, an unusual style of like a belt or something that's going to fasten around the waist. And this one is going to have this similar type of thing. I think I looked it up at some point, and that style of garment that like usually comes down from the body, but for this one it's a separate garment that's starting at the waist, but that reaches down like this, is kind of a variant on like a monastic scapular, I believe is what it's called. If it was like a true traditional form of the garment, then this whole thing right here would include this part down here. So it's kind of inspired by that, but it's not the same type of garment. Covering the lower body and the legs, kind of like a loose fitting set of pants. We'll look at adding some decorative markings on that as well to give it some additional design elements. Likewise, I don't think we did this on any of the other ones so far, but this section here, which we'll have to do after we mirror it, will also have some kind of decorative characters and writing on it. And on the arms, we're going to say there's nothing really on the arms for accessories or anything, since we've done on a few of the other ones. But we'll give this guy some gloves. Kind of like work gloves, or like those really cool guy fingerless ones. Maybe for operating a vehicle or something like that. Red Dragon asks, have you been keeping an eye on the Elden Ring Night Rain reviews? I have, and I've been following a couple of content creators that have been playing through it. One of them is a Monster Hunter, well-known content creator who does a bunch of other stuff too, Rurikon, who does a lot of great coverage of the Monster Hunter games, but he also really likes FromSoft stuff as well. And I know he's been playing a lot of Night Rain, and he said he enjoyed it. I need to finish watching his full kind of in-depth overview. And then I also watched Charlie, Moist Critical's kind of take on everything. And my general thought is that I'm probably going to wait for a while and see how that game develops. I've heard people say that the concept is really fun, but it is kind of flawed. So it's not a completely out of the park home run, but it's an interesting idea. And I think FromSoft is using Night Rain as a testing ground for their next several games when it comes to like multiplayer stuff. And so I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to pick up Night Rain, but it wouldn't be anytime soon. I kind of want to see how it evolves and what people are saying. Apparently it runs well, but there's no crossplay, so you have to be on the same system to play with people, which is already something hopefully they're going to fix for their next release. And I've heard the content's a little bit lacking once you kind of get through a few rounds. It makes me wonder if they're going to be adding new maps or additional things for the characters. So yeah, I'm keeping my eye on it, but I'm not exactly chomping at the bit to pick it up right now. I've also heard that the matchmaking can be kind of wonky if you don't have two other friends to play with, and there's no doubles. It's only solo or trios, which is very strange to me. So like Red Dragon and I couldn't jump on without either, I think, a random third or someone we know. It would have to be groups of 3 or 1, which is a very strange decision. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, like Red Dragon's saying, I'll be keeping my eyes on the development of the product and see what happens with it. It's a cool idea. And the overall consensus is that it's fun. It's not a bad game by any means from what people are saying. It's just kind of an experiment. It sounds like they're sort of treating it like an experiment. But that really does make me wonder what kind of elements from Night Rain they're going to be implementing in Duskbloods when that comes out. Since that one is not supposed to be exclusively a multiplayer game, I think they've said it's like a cooperative experience. So my guess is they're going to use what they learned in Night Rain to kind of build out the way multiplayer co-op is going to work in that next major title. I'm also curious to see if it's going to remain Switch exclusive. My guess, if I were to put money down, is that it's going to be a temporary exclusive on the Switch too. We'll see. I said the same thing about Bloodborne, and that one never left PlayStation. But it does look interesting, like a spiritual successor to Bloodborne. Okay. Dragon asks, have you been doing the events in Wilds? I have not. I haven't had time since I got back from my trip. It's been busy with work this week. So I haven't been able to go in there and start working on the collab stuff for Street Fighter or any of the other new things. Did they already launch the first triple hunt quest that I've been hearing people talk about? Or is that the next one? I gotta get back to it at some point. Okay, launched on the 3rd. All right, I'll have to take a look. That would have been the stuff for this week. My guess is, because isn't that State of Play, that Sony event, like later this week? And Summer Games Fest is coming up soon too, right? My guess is we're going to see the next title update trailer at one of those events. So they'll probably officially show off Lagiacrus, and maybe talk about other stuff coming with that update, which is due out in summer. My guess would be July. That's my guess for when that's coming out. So I would be surprised if we don't get a date confirmation and an official trailer for it this month. If not this month, then it's probably going to be in August. I don't know if you probably saw it mentioned on the original post for the new update, Red Dragon, but layered weapons are going to be in that second title update, which kind of surprises me. I didn't think they would implement that until the expansion. But that's cool. It means we can reskin Ardean weapons, which is great. It's great news. I've also heard from just like reading around the subreddit and what people are saying online, the new 8-star quests that they added with the recent edition are pretty difficult. Like 8-star gore is apparently pretty hard, and the other apexes are not pushovers. So I think challenge is definitely being developed, considering that was one of the major gripes people had early on, is the game was too easy. I'll have to jump in proper when I get a spare minute and start catching up. There's still a lot of armor stuff I want to craft, a lot of weapons to do. One thing I'm looking at doing, and maybe you folks that are hanging out here can give me an idea of whether or not you think this would be interesting. There is a mod project that's been in the works for a while. I have been paying attention to it off and on. But it is essentially like an HD overhaul and mod pack for Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, GU, which was a Switch game. And it is something you can get set up and running on PC. And it looks really cool. It's like full HD texturing and overhaul for the graphics, some kind of menu tweaks, nothing super overhauling on the gameplay, but essentially like a functional, high definition, well-running version of GU. And I've been talking to a buddy of mine, a friend that got me into Monster Hunter eons and eons ago, since he's been kind of fiddling around with it on Steam Deck. I've been thinking about trying to get it set up on my machine. And I know online works a little bit weird because, again, it's modded off of a Switch game. But GU is one of my favorite Monster Hunter games. It's probably my second or third favorite. And I think it'd be interesting to start from scratch and play through that on stream. But it'd be a long haul type game because it starts off a little bit slow and there's a ton of content. GU probably has the most Monster Hunter content of any of the games. I think it's got the largest monster roster by far. And it's got tons of stuff to see and experience. So I've been toying around with the idea. I do want to get that version of the game at least running and see how it plays on my computer. But if you folks would be interested in seeing what old school Monster Hunter looks like, then that's something we can think about. Especially once the content slows down for Wilds. But my hesitance in starting GU, if I wanted to play from low rank all the way to the end of G rank, that's probably a couple hundred hours. And that's moving relatively quickly. And assuming I solo it, which is doubly hard, that's a big investment. But something to think about. Maybe I could speak on it more if I can actually get it running and working and see how it looks. Because that game is awesome. It's definitely a little bit jarring for a bit when you go from a modern game like World, Iceborne, Rise, Sunbreak, or Wilds and go back to something like GU. I know because when I was waiting for Wilds to come out, I fired up my old GU save on my Switch and was doing some grinding. And one, the game is very hard at G rank level, G rank master rank. And two, the gameplay is a little bit different because a lot of the modernization and quality of life stuff doesn't exist. Anyway, we'll work on that some more and then report back. If people want me to check it out, then maybe we can do that in the future. All right, let's take a look at what we're doing. Okay, save that. I think we can mirror this one and add some of the designs to the front and middle. Duplicate you. You do this, merge. Kind of looks like a monk outfit. Now that I think about it. It wasn't really the intention. But I kind of get monk vibes. Okay. Well, this is our casual wear model compared to armor. Oh, we can delete. The characters only want that to be on one side. Let's do it like this. Now that'll do. Definitely kind of a contrast in detail. Casual wear is not nearly as busy as the armor. And that's by design. We can move these two up here. That just leaves two more. Okay, I think I know which ones I gotta do next. That would be, where are you? Nope. Nope. Here we go. Could have sworn I did this one already. Doesn't look like it. Nope. Maybe we talked about it last time, but I didn't do a set for these people. These are the ones who live in the desert. Okay, we'll start with the female model, and then we'll flip back and forth again. We'll do casual wear for this one. Yeah, for this one, I like the idea of kind of a decorative sash or like a long scarf around the neck. See if I can do that. And show the details. It'll be a little bit easier when I can mirror it, because what I can do is have this be symmetrical, but then maybe going down this side and coming off like this. This idea that I had here is kind of like a dressier upper garment, and I'm gonna go for something longer for this one. This is the particular race that has a lot of more covering and obscuring clothing compared to some of the other ones. This is kind of a layered midsection garment. Not armor, because this isn't the armor design. But something similar to like a bodice or a corset, but not quite as form-fitting. A little more kind of comfortable instead of being like really tight against the torso. Well, this might be kind of like a concept design for formal evening wear. It's supposed to just regular casual walking around type outfit. I like that idea, since we haven't really done the different race equivalents of like fancy formal wear. We can experiment with that for this one. I have some ideas for putting like kind of like jewelry or accessories for like the lower part of the dress here, but we can do that once we mirror it. I was thinking maybe we have some like jeweled chains that go across like that, wrapped around for like decorative purposes. My idea here is kind of like longer draping sleeves. But you can play around with kind of the shape. Let's make sure it follows the sort of contours of the arm. On the feet, I don't know if this really conveys too well in sketch format like this, but I was thinking kind of like low-cut slippers. There's like slide-on type shoes instead of things that go like up to the ankle, maybe right around here at the kind of top of the foot. I like to think for, again, kind of a fancier type of attire, this model would have jewelry like on her hands, rings and whatnot. Okay, I think this gives us a good base to work off of. I think a lot more of the additional detail that we want to add here, again, to give this more of kind of like a fancier flair, will be once it's mirrored and I can work on the parts that are not symmetrical. So I'm going to mirror this one a little bit earlier than I normally would because there's more stuff we want to add. Let's go ahead and do that. This one is 10. Is it? Where'd I put this one? Nope, that's on the wrong layer. Thought that seemed weird. This one should be on number 10. Reset the clock. Working on the wrong layer. I can do it at least once a stream. We have to fix the head too. Oh, it's on the right layer now, at least. Now we can duplicate this, flip it over, and merge it. Okay, that'll work. I'll keep the center line there for now. That way I can make sure everything's matching up all right. Okay, now we're gonna look at doing some kind of accessorizing, adding some details that are gonna make this look a little bit more kind of, again, fancy and ornate. I think 2 might actually be enough. The idea here would be these would resemble kind of like jeweled chains or things that are going to wind around the lower part of the dress and to give it some decoration. You can add some more of the runic markings here. These are going to be only on one side, and then we'll add some more on the dress itself, kind of on the surface of the fabric, like an embroidered or even painted design. And do I have design from this race? I can look at the writing system a little bit closer. Oh no, there it is. Okay, I'm gonna copy my writing characters that are from this one, just to make it a little bit easier. I'm gonna need to do kind of like a in-depth refresher on what I've done for the writing systems for all these. It's the part of the designs that I usually focus on the least, but I think because it's been so long, I've sort of forgotten how I designed the style of the writing. Since there's 11 races, I didn't design 11 like fully fleshed out writing systems, but I established how the writing looks. To kind of illustrate what I'm talking about here, we have some that are kind of more blocky and angular looking. Like that. We have some that are more kind of sharp and resemble, and more Asian characters, I think, is the inspiration for a majority of these. And we have some that look more like full, like runic scripture. And we have another style that actually has fully blocked in writing. Almost more kind of like hieroglyphs, but it's not forming pictures. It's just the way everything's blocked in, it looks like that. So I had to do that for 11 different races and come up with kind of a distinct way of designing the way writing works. That was not an easy task, but I've kind of forgotten what a lot of them look like. Oh, it might be time to go back and do kind of like a catch up. I don't know if I'll do it on stream, since I highly doubt you folks are going to find me talking about fictional writing systems interesting. But you'll see it kind of come into play as we do more of these designs. Can't forget this scarf thing that we started with either. Looks like they'd be comfort for like winter attire, colder environments, or maybe just something, again, fancy and decorative for like a formal engagement. All right. It's adding some kind of wrinkles to show how everything's sort of falling as the garment ends around. What about the ankles? Okay, let's take stock of this particular design. I think the idea of formal wear kind of comes across here. It definitely looks a little bit more kind of dressy compared to the like combat armor style. I'll have to think about that particular type of outfit design, since again I haven't really done something that's supposed to look formal and dressy, but exploring concepts like that for these different races would be interesting, since each one's going to look a little bit different. And I see we have a drop a beat followed by the usual 5 hydrates from Red Dragon. Almost done with my smoothie. I might have to get some more water before we wrap up. We'll see. I got some. Yes, I know, Red Dragon. You are my hydration reminder. Especially since my voice is still recovering. Well, I appreciate you making sure I stay hydrated. Okay, let's pause BGM real quick. This might be a little bit of a challenge. I can't really push it with my basses, but I will do my best. All right, with the headphones on. Let's see if we can come up with something interesting. Since it's been a while, let's give it a try. All right. Let's remove the headphones. Resume tunes. And continue on with our work. Let's try and finish one more male counterpart to a female one here. This will be 10B. And we'll move you over. I tell you, one thing that was tough about being on the road for it was a week plus. I was gone for the wedding. I could not beatbox just whenever I wanted to because I was around people the entire time. So it was kind of weird, essentially, not being able to practice or do any beatboxing for, a week plus. I'm used to just being able to walk around my house when I'm doing whatever menial tasks, just practicing or experimenting with stuff whenever. And so I had to kind of break that habit when I was out in public and at formal events and everything, which was kind of weird. But it ended up being all right since a lot of my extended family that I saw during said wedding doesn't know I can do that type of stuff. Like, it's never come up. I haven't seen a lot of those people since before the pandemic when I learned. And so it never came up, which is probably for the best. Though I did have a couple people ask me if I was going to do something special for the speech I had to give at said wedding. Like, I know one of my brother's friends asked if I was going to rap like my speech or do like a beatbox thing since he knew I could do that. And I said that's probably not going to go over as well since my sister-in-law now, her family's not from the States, so I don't know if they'd really get it. a lot of her extended family was from outside the country, so I didn't want to do anything weird. I kept it by the book, and it went smoothly, and that's what matters. Okay, we need to come up with armor concept designs for the male model. And this particular race, again, desert environment, their armor, we talked about this before when we were looking at the other format. Their armor resembles bone in its texture and coloring. It's not made of bone, but it's meant to evoke like bone-like imagery. Which might be tough to do when I'm not doing everything in color. But I think we can kind of mess around with that idea for, again, armor. Okay, going with kind of the idea of textured, kind of similar to like a plate mail. I think about what kind of protection we want on the arms, but I got an idea. For the legs, though, we'll come back to the arms. For the legs, I'm going to do kind of like a heavier fatigue type pants that are going to cut off right around the knee, and then we'll do like armored leg guards. Kind of keep the whole similar concept of that ridged bone-like shape. Maybe make it a little more sleek. Let's clean up the pants a little bit. Not make it so muddy and messy. Okay. I think that will work. Now for the arms. We have here these kind of plated arm guards, keeping the same, again, kind of like bone texture. But we'll do bracers on the arms. So we do that up here. Similar. But the style will be different. Red Dragon says, I've almost finished writing up my beast mode form of my persona. Okay, this is your OC persona for like Red Dragon itself, and it's a new form for it. I think you mentioned that before. It's been a little bit though. That's interesting. You'll have to send me the details. Or at least if you get it drawn out in like concept form, I'd be interested to see it. Oops. That's not what I want. Human and dragon form. Okay. Yeah, that sounds familiar. That's cool. I thought you were considering retiring your whole persona for Red Dragon, though. Not to call you out or anything, but I saw mention on it earlier. You still kind of toying around with the idea of what you want to do with the brand? Let me fix. Oh, okay, so you're talking about the stuff for the actual character from the story. I see. Yeah, if you're going to continue to create content, though, I will just say doing a full content rebrand is always a little bit tough, especially if you're planning to continue doing like streaming and whatnot, because then like if you had assets made and everything else, you have to get all that like redone, and that can get kind of spendy. That's just my experience having had to rebrand everything when I started becoming a VTuber. I opted to do that instead of continuing under my old content name, which you folks will probably never see, so don't ask. Yeah, that makes sense. So the character itself is tied to what's within the story and the lore. Red Dragon says, yeah, that's the fun part of the journey and not the finish line. I agree. I think developing lore and characters is probably one of the things I find the most interesting, even if I never do anything with the characters. Red Dragon says I used to restart characters in World of Warcraft whenever I hit max level. Was it 99 or ultimately was 99? Wasn't it like 60 or 70 initially? I never played WoW. I knew a lot of people who did. 60, gotcha. Yeah, I could never do that. If I invested a lot of time in a character on something like that, like just resetting and starting over would drive me nuts. That's why I don't start multiple characters in a game like Monster Hunter. There's no like built-in reason to do that unless you feel like kind of just restarting lore and everything. But for me, I like putting all of my work into one main character. Okay. Red Dragon says I have like 8 OCs finished for Gits and your Goblin too. Are you talking about the Goblin design I showed you from my one-off D&D campaign? Or did you write up a separate one? I can't remember. It's been a while since we talked about it. That was a fun character. I got to do like a really bad New York accent for the entirety of that one-off campaign. And then I think all of our characters died through a lore-connected cataclysmic event. Yeah, did I give you an image of that character, Red Dragon, or did I just tell you about it? Because that's the character I used for my one-off D&D session, not my main one, not the beatboxing bard. The Goblin one was a one-off that we did to bring in a new. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that character was for a spin-off short series that we did to bring in a new member, someone who joined our D&D group. And so we all played different characters, and that's what I used that Goblin for. He was an artificer who liked blowing things up and spoke in a really bad New York accent. Okay, we want to mirror this. We can hide the primary and center line and do our final cleanup, and then that will be one step closer to finishing all of the concept designs. If I had the ability to start earlier today, we definitely could have finished this, but I almost ran late as it is thanks to work. But still, progress is being made. I think there's only one more set left. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, one more set left. So I could probably do that offline. And maybe next time we jump on to do a drawing stream with characters, we do this template but with faces. I think that could be an interesting way to switch things up. So let's take stock. We started here. We finished 5. The male counterpart for this one. And we did the water-based group. And then the desert one. That's not bad. I think 5 is a respectable number of things to finish, considering. Okay. Now I'll look at finishing the last 2. Either that or it'll be the beginning part of the next drawing stream, and then we'll go into like character faces, which I haven't done in a long time. I think it'd be good to get back to doing some thing that's not outfits for a little while, and then maybe we circle back to creature concepts too in the near future. I've been so focused on trying to complete all of these that we haven't done creature designs in a while. So I'm going to group these so I can turn them on and off quickly. This is set 2. So we have set 1. And set 2 won't be complete since there'll only be 5 sets like this. So there'll be spots missing down here, but we're close. I may actually finish an entire set of concepts. And later, we do it all again from the beginning. Oh yeah, I just saw your message in Discord, Red Dragon. Yeah, that's the one I used for the one-off. A fun character to roleplay. Very different from my bard, who's not quite as chaotic and rambunctious. Okay, so let's go ahead and do one last save, and we will get ready to wrap up. Timing worked out well. I need to go take care of some things, some chore stuff done before it gets too late. Let me go see who is online that we can raid. Oh, let's see. I see Icy Jackets is online. Looks like he is doing some night raining. Okay, we can go pop over to Icy's stream and see how everything's going. So, let me go ahead and pause the BGM. We'll go to outro. And we will call that a mostly productive drawing stream for today. Before we jump off, I want to just mention some stuff I'll mention tomorrow too, assuming nothing compromises my schedule. We will be back tomorrow. I'm going to be starting a new playthrough of something. I don't know what quite yet, but I'll figure that out. And it'll either be something new, or maybe we might do a couple one-off returns to some stuff we haven't seen in a bit. But it'll be something we haven't seen for a while here on the channel. Of note, on Saturday, this coming Saturday, I will be jumping on for a collab stream early in the morning over on Bits' channel. And we are going to be debuting a project that I worked on recently that I haven't really talked about a ton here, but it's something really cool. So if you want to check that out, then stop on by Bits' stream on Saturday morning. It should be 10 Pacific, 11 Mountain. I'll put a reminder in our Discord too. That way people know what's going on. But it should be interesting. But in the meantime, thanks again for hanging out, folks. It's good to be back. And sorry my voice is a little bit weird, but it'll get better. Hope everyone has a good rest of your day or evening. and I will catch you hopefully tomorrow, again, schedule permitting. Now let's go see how the night raining is going over on Icy's channel. I will catch you folks later.